At just 12 years old, she was caught in the deadly grip of addiction, her young life unraveling in front of the world's eyes. But this wasn't just any child star. She was a Hollywood legend in the making, adored by millions and already a household name. Her innocence lost, her future uncertain, she had to fight her way out of the darkness. This is the story of Drew Barrymore, one of the most famous faces in Hollywood whose childhood was stolen by fame, but whose resilience would turn her into an icon. Can someone who fell so far rise from the ashes to not just survive, but thrive? The answer is more shocking than you can imagine. Drew Barrymore wasn't just born into Hollywood, she was born into its history. Her family name was legendary, steeped in a century-long dynasty of actors and performers. Her great-grandparents, Maurice and Georgie Drew Barrymore, were celebrated stars of the stage. Drew's mother, Jade Barrymore, was an aspiring actress and model, and her father, John Barrymore, was one of the greatest actors of his time. But his brilliance was dimmed by a destructive relationship with alcohol, a shadow that would follow the Barrymores for generations. From the moment she entered the world on February 22, 1975, in Culver City, California, Drew was destined to carry both the magic and the burden of her family's legacy. But for all the glamour of her ancestry, the reality of her upbringing was far from enchanting. John, Drew's father, was a violent alcoholic, his outbursts leaving Drew and her mother, Jade, in a constant state of fear. He would disappear for months, sometimes years, leaving them to navigate life on their own. In a candid interview with Parade magazine, Drew shared, "My dad was abusive and I feared him. I think I spent most of my childhood waiting for the other shoe to drop with him." Even when he wasn't around, his looming presence haunted her. He was unpredictable, often showing up at the worst times, wreaking havoc and then vanishing just as quickly. If her father's absence was damaging, her mother's overbearing presence was equally destabilizing. She was more interested in Drew's stardom than her well-being. Before Drew could even walk, she was being groomed for the spotlight. At just 11 months old, she starred in her first commercial. Jade wasn't just a mother, she was also Drew's manager, taking her to auditions and Hollywood parties where adults drank, smoked, and used drugs openly. For Drew, this was normal. She didn't know that childhood was supposed to be different. Her mother encouraged her to mingle with the stars and soak in the fame, but she failed to shield Drew from the predators and pressures of that glittering world. At times, it seemed Jade wanted to live through her daughter, chasing the dreams she couldn't achieve herself. But for Drew, this meant growing up too fast, losing the innocence most children take for granted. Despite the turmoil of her home life, Drew found solace in the simple joys that still made her a child at heart. She adored animals, surrounding herself with dogs, cats, and horses, finding a rare sense of stability in their unconditional love. She also turned to art, pouring her emotions into painting and drawing, using colors to express the pain and dreams she couldn't put into words. Books became another escape. Drew's formal education was scattered, interrupted by acting schedules and chaos at home, but she had an insatiable curiosity. Through stories, she discovered new worlds, far from the pressures of fame and the weight of her family's history. In these quiet moments, Drew glimpsed the strength of her own imagination, an imagination that would one day save her. At just 7 years old, Drew wasn't just acting, she was captivating hearts across the globe. When she stepped into the role of Gertie in E.T. the Extraterrestrial, the world witnessed a rare talent with a depth far beyond her years. The performance wasn't just a milestone in her career, it was a seismic moment in cinema that made Drew an instant star. Director Steven Spielberg, who would later become her godfather, recognized her extraordinary potential from the moment he met her. Reflecting on their collaboration in Time magazine, Spielberg said, "Drew was the one who pulled on your heartstrings. She had this ability to convey emotions so naturally. There was something magical about her, even at that age." Spielberg's influence went beyond the silver screen. In Drew's tumultuous world, he offered something precious: stability. Their bond became a lifeline, one that would become even more critical during her darkest days. But the magic of E.T. came with a price. Fame, as dazzling as it seemed, opened a Pandora's box for the young actress, exposing her to a world she was far too young to navigate. Drew Barrymore's famous lineage opened doors to stardom, but came at a steep cost. born into Hollywood royalty, she was thrust into an adult world that stripped away her innocence far too soon. While other children played, Drew walked red carpets and navigated a chaotic nightlife alongside her mother, who saw no harm in exposing her to such a lifestyle. Drew reflected, "I was a little kid surrounded by grown-ups doing things they shouldn't do in front of children, but no one seemed to care." Her childhood was anything but normal, shaped by an industry that valued fame over a child's well-being. Hollywood's glittering veneer hid a darker underbelly, and Drew was thrust into it far too early. Studio 54, New York City's infamous nightclub, became a symbol of that world. Known for its anything-goes atmosphere, the club was a hub for hedonism, excess, and a disregard for boundaries. Inside its pulsating walls, celebrities danced under strobe lights, indulged in open drug use, and engaged in debauchery that blurred all lines of propriety. Drew, at just 9 years old, became a regular at this adult playground. I remember walking into these places where there were bowls of cocaine on the tables. People weren't hiding anything. I was seeing things that I wasn't supposed to see, things I couldn't comprehend as a child. Jade Barrymore, often more of a party companion than a mother, took her daughter to these events without concern for their impact. Drew was left to navigate these dangerous environments on her own, mingling with much older celebrities who showed no hesitation in exposing her to their vices. Surrounded by the unfiltered glamour and decay of Hollywood's elite, Drew quickly became a product of her environment. By 9 years old, she had begun smoking cigarettes. By 10, she was drinking alcohol regularly, often handed to her by the adults she idolized. I was drinking tequila at 10, which is really ridiculous. By 12, Drew was experimenting with marijuana and cocaine. Cocaine was so prevalent at those parties, it was just there, all around you. I wanted to be a part of that world because it seemed so glamorous at the time. What began as a desperate attempt to belong quickly spiraled into full-blown addiction. By 13, Drew's once bright future had dimmed under the weight of substance abuse, her innocence stolen by the very industry that had made her a star. In 1988, Drew's chaotic lifestyle reached a breaking point. With her addiction spiraling out of control, Jade made the decision to admit her daughter to Van Nuys Psychiatric Hospital, a rehabilitation center for troubled youth in Los Angeles. It was a move that marked a turning point, but it came at a heavy cost. For Drew, the experience was a sobering one, both literally and figuratively. Stripped of her fame, she was no longer the beloved child star. She was just another addict fighting for her life. I was terrified. I felt like a failure at 13, like I had already messed up my life so badly that there was no way out. During her time in rehab, Drew's emotional pain reached its peak. Overwhelmed by feelings of abandonment and hopelessness, she attempted suicide by cutting her wrists. Though the attempt was unsuccessful, it was a chilling reminder of how deeply her struggles ran. Afterward, Drew was placed in a psychiatric facility for further treatment, where she began the grueling process of unpacking her trauma. In therapy, she confronted the root causes of her addiction: her fractured relationship with her parents, the pressures of fame, and the toxic environments she had been exposed to. It wasn't just about getting sober, it was about figuring out why I was using in the first place. Recovery wasn't a straight path for Drew. After her first stint in rehab, she relapsed, slipping back into the destructive behaviors that had defined her childhood. This time, it was Steven Spielberg who stepped in. Acting as a father figure, Spielberg staged an informal intervention, urging Drew to seek help once again. Drew has often credited Spielberg with saving her life, describing him as one of the few constants in her chaotic world. "He didn't give up on me, even when I had given up on myself." Drew's second stay in rehab was more grueling than the first, but it also marked a turning point. She spent time in solitary confinement, reflecting on her choices and the life she wanted to build. "It was the lowest point for me," she wrote, "but in a way, that's what saved me. I needed to hit bottom to realize that I didn't want to live like that anymore." A major source of her struggles, she realized, stemmed from her toxic relationship with her mother. Drew believed her mother had thrust her into the limelight far too young, neglecting to provide the love, structure, and protection every child deserves. In 1990, at just 14 years old, Drew made an extraordinary decision. She filed for legal emancipation from her parents. For someone so young, this was nothing short of revolutionary. the court sided with her, officially granting her independence and marking the beginning of a new, self-determined chapter in her life. Getting emancipated was the scariest and most freeing thing I've ever done. I didn't know how to take care of myself, but I knew staying in that situation would only destroy me. Despite the chaos of her teenage years, Drew refused to fade into obscurity. By the early 1990s, she began carving out a new identity, leaving behind the child star label and embracing edgier, more adult roles. One of her breakout performances during this period was in Poison Ivy, where she played a troubled yet seductive teenager, a far cry from the sweet, wide-eyed girl from E.T. This role proved Drew's ability to tackle complex characters and announced her return to Hollywood. Momentum quickly built as Drew showcased her range in films like Boys on the Side and Batman Forever. She was no longer just a former child star trying to stay relevant. She was a serious actress with something to prove. Perhaps the most defining moment of her comeback came with Scream.
Hello?
Yes?
Who is this?
Who are you trying to reach?
What number is this?
What number are you trying to reach?
Initially offered the lead role, Drew made the daring choice to play the character killed off in the first 15 minutes. This shocking twist became one of the most iconic moments in the film, cementing her status as a fearless actress willing to take risks. As Drew's career blossomed, her personal life began to evolve as well. In the early 2000s, she navigated high-profile relationships, including a brief marriage to comedian Tom Green. Though short-lived, this period marked a turning point as Drew realized her deep desire for stability. That stability came in 2012 when she married art consultant Will Kopelman. The couple welcomed 2 daughters, Olive and Frankie, and Drew fully embraced motherhood. "It's the most important thing I've ever done. It saved me." Determined to give her daughters the childhood she never had, Drew poured herself into creating a loving, stable environment. "I want them to feel normal," she said. "I want them to have a childhood." Creativity knows no bounds. She founded Flower Beauty in 2013, offering high-quality, affordable cosmetics with the motto, "Beauty should be fun." She also ventured into winemaking with Barrymore wines, blending her love for craft and flavor. In 2020, Drew launched The Drew Barrymore Show, where her warmth and authenticity shine. The talk show became a platform for honest conversations about mental health, resilience, and motherhood. "Everything I've been through has led me here," she said. "I want this show to be a place where people feel safe to be themselves." Drew has also penned books, including Little Girl Lost and Wildflower, offering raw insights into her life and journey. These projects highlight her ability to reinvent herself and connect with audiences in every stage of her career. Drew's love for acting remains as strong as ever. Recent projects like The Adam Project reminded audiences of her comedic brilliance, while a cameo in Scream 6 delighted fans with a nostalgic nod to her horror roots. Smile 2 was released in 2024, with Drew Barrymore playing herself in a unique twist. Her role adds a fascinating layer to the psychological thriller, blending reality with fiction. Drew's presence brings both humor and authenticity to the film, which became a huge success, proving once again her ability to surprise and captivate audiences in fresh ways. Drew Barrymore's story is a testament to the power of resilience. Despite a childhood marked by chaos and heartbreak, she rose above her circumstances, transforming her pain into purpose. Today, she thrives as an actress, entrepreneur, talk show host, and devoted mother, proving that no fall is too great to recover from. Her journey reminds us all that our past doesn't define us. It's how we choose to move forward that truly matters. If Drew's story inspired you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell. Join us as we explore the lives of extraordinary individuals who've overcome incredible challenges. Together, let's celebrate stories of strength and transformation.